Hey, thank you for joining us today. Listen, we're going to have an amazing discussion today. It's all going to be about Nigeria. It's going to be about Nigeria. For those of you that don't know, in fact, before we even get going, look, hit the subscribe and the bell so that you know when I go live. This has been a long time coming for me. As you probably know, this channel is all about talking to men worldwide, talking to black men worldwide, whether they're in the Americas, North or South, probably North America, talking to black men in the Caribbean, and also talking to men all over Europe, particularly in the UK, about places we can go to basically access a better quality of life. And I'm going to say it again, before we get going, hit the subscribe and the bell so that you know when we go live, right? So this conversation about Nigeria has been a long time coming. As you know, I did say on this channel a while ago that via DNA, I am 50% literally on my mum's side, Yoruba, if I'm pronouncing that right. And I mean, well, 98.8%. That is the DNA test that came back from African ancestry. I'm not sponsored by them. Do definitely go and check it out. But I am 98.8% Yoruba. AfricanAncestry.com is quite an interesting way of doing a DNA test. They literally can go right down to the village where your DNA comes from. So that was, I mean, you know, if you come from Jamaica, if you've got Jamaican heritage, chances are your DNA does come from either Ghana, more or less, or the surrounding countries, and or Nigeria. That's just the DNA. So it didn't surprise me at all. What surprised me was the amount. 90 on my mum's side. In other words, you know, with AfricanAncestry.com, you do a matri clan and a patri clan DNA test. In other words, they check your mother's DNA, mother to mother to mother to mother, and then they also check your father's DNA, father to father to father to father, right the way back, something like 1,500 years, apparently. I mean, that's what the bit of paper says. So on my mum's side, 98.8%. On my dad's side, 100%, apparently, going by the results of that DNA test, 100% from a country called Burkina Faso, right? So I am going to travel to that country, me and the wife, and, you know, we're going to enjoy seeing if I see anybody that looks like my dad, basically. So that's going to be an interesting, that's going to be an interesting trip. But as I said at the beginning of this stream, this one's been a long time coming because, as I also said, this channel is about inspiring particularly black men to find a life for themselves, to find legacy, to find family, to find something that's worth investing your life into, pouring your life into, to finding a place in the space on planet Earth where you're valued, not just tolerated, but where you're valued. We've looked at Kenya, we've looked at, God, where else have we looked? We looked at Ghana, we looked at all of these, you know, other places as well. We've specifically been looking at property, reason being, one, it's an investment, and two, we've got to live somewhere. If you're going to go abroad, you've got to live somewhere. You know, nothing wrong with renting to start off with, but in an ideal world, you really want to be buying. You want to be making some sort of an investment eventually after you've learned about the way property is bought, land is bought. You don't just rush into doing anything. Obviously, that's not wise. You wouldn't do it in the country where you currently live. So you're not going to go to a completely foreign country and then pour your money into a system that you don't understand. You're going to do your research. You're going to do your due diligence because you're not stupid. Men of purpose, we are not stupid. We don't act in an irrational manner. We check things out. We do the homework. And after a good year of doing the homework, talking to people, traveling to a particular place and space and country, after you've done all of that and you're happy with it and you figured out how you can make money where you're going to be, where you're going to lay down roots, or if you want to run a charity, whatever you want to do, you do. You know, men of purpose, what we do, we figure all of those things out before we make the leap, before we do the investment. That is what we do. That's what we do. And that's what I recommend that we all do. Anyone that's going to watch this stream or this channel, do your due diligence. Every single time, do your due diligence. That's got to go without saying. Everything you watch on my channel, in fact, everything you do everywhere, whatever information you pick up from anybody's channel, do your due diligence. You check it out for yourself. Don't take no one's word for it. In a word of a young person that I spoke to, I don't know, about 10 years ago, trust no one. Right? Do your own due diligence. Very, very serious point. Trust no one, trust no information you get. Check it out for yourself. And after a good year of checking it out, then decide whether or not you want to make your move. But it's up to you. It's your, your life is yours. It's fully and utterly up to you to do your due diligence and all that good stuff. All right. But without, with that said, getting back to what I was saying before, this channel is specifically all about black men living in the West that see, I'm going to be honest with you, that see no reason to stay. That is who the channel is for. Having said that, you've got to have 2 pennies, $2, two shillings to rub together to enable your move. Okay, you've got to have some money in the bank to enable your move. Moving abroad is not necessarily for poor guys. I'm not saying you can't work up to it, but the truth is, let's be honest, you've got to have some money, whether it's in the bank or at least a plan as to how you're going to survive when you do go abroad. So all of those bits and pieces are for you to figure out. What this channel is about is about offering you, showing you, exploring with you, because I'm no expert on this. I'm going to be really, really honest. I've only just begun to explore Nigeria literally recently. So we will be exploring together as we have done Ghana, as we, although I've been to Ghana 3 times prior with the wife, but I've never been to Kenya. And I've done a load of videos about the property market in Kenya and about living in Kenya. And we're going to do exactly the same with Nigeria. So this is all about, us literally exploring together, especially Nigeria. Now, the funny thing about Nigeria is my wife is, her mother is Nigerian, Igbo, if I'm pronouncing that right. Her father is Ghanaian. I don't know how that worked in their house when they were younger, but I think her mum used to crack the whip, bearing in mind that she's Ghanaian, that she's Yoruba, that she's Nigerian, and I think her dad used to smile and say yes, basically. And I've met her dad. Her dad's in his 80s now. He's a lovely old guy, great sense of humor. The women love him. Old and young women love my wife's dad. Trust me. Right, I can imagine what that man was like when he was younger. He's got a gift. He's got a gift of being able to chat up women at the age of 86. He's got 2 birth dates. One birth date is 86, and the other one is 84 or 83 or whatever it is. They didn't keep records apparently in his village at that time. Right, they didn't keep records, but one of those things. But anyway, prior to, meeting my wife, probably starting in my late teens, I've dated a lot of Nigerian women, and half my friends are Nigerian, but I've never been to Nigeria. That's one. And as I said, 50% of my DNA, 98.8% of my DNA is Yoruba. Not even anything else, just from one little place on the coast of Nigeria, going by AfricanAncestry.com. So I thought, you know what? We did Ghana, and we'll come back to looking at property and life in Ghana for the guys that want somewhere to live in a black country. Very few better black countries than Ghana. And it felt like home when we were there. As soon as I got off the plane, it definitely felt like home. We looked at Kenya, which is a brilliant place to live. And honestly, I am 100% with the young people in Kenya and in Nigeria, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm 100%, 150% behind the young people who are protesting about the lack of opportunities in both countries, about the cost of living. You know, in the UK, we've got something called the cost of living crisis. But the truth is, in most African countries, you've got a serious cost of living crisis. You got sky high inflation, and it's getting worse. The first time we went to Ghana, I think me and the wife went 2 years before lockdown. The pound to the cedi was something like 6.8 cedis to the pound, something like that. Last time I looked, it was closer to 15. Right, so that's inflation. That's the sign of inflation, and what that means, basically, for the people living in Ghana, is that basically life has gotten twice as hard. Things are twice as expensive. That's the truth. So that is what's been happening in Kenya. That is why the young people are protesting in Nigeria. All right, that's why they're protesting, and I'm glad they are. About time, because what you're looking at, and again, the film we're going to watch in a minute is going to point towards it as well. And I thought, listen, if I'm going to start talking about buying property in Nigeria, black men moving abroad, getting a life in a different country in Nigeria, then I think what I've got to explore with you is what that might look like, and be really, really transparent and really honest about it, and not ignore it. My view, God, what do you call it? I can't remember what you call it, but anyway, it doesn't matter. My view is that it's still worth looking at moving to Nigeria or any other African country for one reason, and it's just to have a family and or get legacy, right? And opportunities as well, and and your mental state, your peace of mind. I'm going to be really honest with you. On my channel, I've already looked at the fact, right, that more black people per head of population are in mental institutions in the UK than in Africa, than in any African country, right? So, and that's a fact. That is a fact. Go and check out the Mind website, MIND website. We've looked at it on my channel already. That is a bona fide fact. There's more people, black people, that is, per head of black population in mental institutions in the UK than in any African or any black country. That is a researched statistical fact, according to the Mind website. We have to think about things like that. So in the film we're going to watch in a minute, you're going to hear differing points of view. You're going to hear it's about interviewing Nigerian young people in their teens, 20s and 30s. Some of them are going to be, pro escape Nigeria. Others are going to be, no, we need to stay and fix our country. There's a couple of people in the film who basically went to the West, I think America, as kids, stayed there until adulthood, and then decided to come back. All right. But in all of this, and actually at the end of it, what we're going to do, we're going to look at about 3 properties, all apartments, right, in a lovely, lovely, lovely and developing part of Lagos. God, what's it called? Can't remember now, but we'll look at it in a minute. But we'll look at those apartments afterwards, all right? But yeah, it's just really about being crystal clear with the challenges that there are in Nigeria at the moment. So without further ado, what I'm going to bring up this film, all right? If I can remember how to do it. There we go. Yeah, that's it. Right, okay. And this is from an amazing YouTube channel. I'm going to say fair use for what it's worth. But, in order to have this conversation, I think we got to basically look at, look at what people are actually saying, not just look at the, because there's a lot of film footage at the moment on YouTube about the actual youth protests. And I know, sadly, a lot of people, a number of people have been killed, I think, by the police, you know, and that's great. Do go and have a look at that. But I think we got to examine the reasons for those youth protests now. And the fact that I'm going to be really honest with you, I think a lot of African governments need to go. I don't think they're fit for the purpose of developing their countries. As far as I'm concerned, they're all except for Mali, Burkina Faso, where 50% of my DNA comes from, and God, what's the other country? Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. I think, except for those three countries, I think most of the other African countries are in the pocket of Western powers, which is completely and utterly terrible, and it's awful. And actually, I think that particular reason is why a lot of African countries really are not getting anywhere. And I think to get anywhere, other African countries, the ECOWAS countries, have to follow the lead of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Now we know that's not going to happen because the leaders of the ECOWAS countries are in the pocket of the collective West. So in order to stem the flow of Africans leaving Nigeria, wanting to leave Ghana and other African countries, really, I'm going to have to use the phrase, we've got to liberate ourselves from the West. That is the root of the problem. That, well, poor governance is because of men like Ruto and other African leaders. I'm going to make an assumption the leader of Nigeria as well. All of them are in the pocket of Western powers. Listen, the Bible says it. You cannot serve two masters. It's totally impossible to serve two masters. You can't. You'll either serve one and serve the other poorly, or you'll serve the other and serve the other one poorly. You take your pick. Take your pick. Take your pick. Don't sit on the fence. Don't stand in the middle of the road. It's the worst place for you to stand. You will get run over by cars going in both directions. It's the God's honest truth. So I am glad for a third time that the Nigerian youth, the young people, are standing up, are basically protesting. Hopefully it's going to they're not going to accept any platitudes coming from the Nigerian leadership. Hopefully it's going to be enough to topple them, and hopefully we're going to get a Toure, if I'm pronouncing his name right, somebody like the leader of Burkina Faso or Mali or Niger. Hopefully Nigeria is gonna get someone like that who does not believe in tribalism, because tribalism is an enemy of the people in every single African country. Yeah, that's the deal. Listen, I'm going to speak to my Nigerian brethren. If you want your country to be better, you've got to bury tribalism. Do what the Kenyan youth done. When the Kenyan youth came out into the streets, one of the things they said was, no more tribalism. We're coming out here as Kenyans. We're not coming out here as individual tribes. No, because the leadership of the country, all they will do is divide and what? Divide and what? Divide and rule. They will divide and rule. So you guys in Nigeria, you have to take a leaf out of the young people's book in Kenya, and you have to make sure that when you come out here, you are not coming out as individual tribes. No, you are coming out as a united group of young people who are going to basically remove your leaders and put, I'm going to be honest with you, put leaders into power who put the needs of the people before their own needs, and definitely before the needs of Western powers. It's as simple as that. You cannot, your country, Nigeria, nor any other African country will be good for the people, if you're trying to serve the, Western powers. It's not going to work. Trust me, that one is not going to work. But anyway, look, let's get back to this. I'm going to press play, and we're going to analyze some of the reasons that literally underpin what's been happening in Nigeria. I just want to read out a couple of comments. We got a new brother here. Where's Johnny? Love the name. Just showing some love. God bless you, bro. God bless you. Anyway, right, let's get this cracking. Here we go. Fair use. Oh, sorry. And this is a great channel. God, what's this channel called? Let me just shout them out before I even get going, because that'd be a little bit rude, wouldn't it? So let me shout this channel out. All right, so the channel is called, come on, what's the channel called? The channel is called if I've got it right, DW the 77%. DW the 77%. Hopefully I've got that right. Do go and check out the channel. They do a lot of street interviews in Nigeria, and all of them are brilliant. I've been looking at the channel for now, God knows, at least a year. Always food for thought. Right, okay, here we go.
And welcome back to the 77%. This week, we are back in Nigeria. And before we continue, I'd like you to picture something. Imagine living in a country where you feel completely...
And what I've done, I've sped it up. One, so that we can get through it without YouTube calling time on us, right? So there you go.
Frustrated by your government's efforts and feel absolutely no way out. What do you do? Well, for most Nigerians, they decide to japa, the Yoruba word for run. And so...
Right, okay, so that's the first thing, right? So I've had conversations, right, with lots and lots and lots and lots of Nigerians, both in the UK and in Nigeria, right? And it's just the whole thing about leaving your country because you see zero value in it in terms of opportunity. And so you run to another country, either Europe or the US, in order to find, or Canada, of all the places to go, the place of false promises. But anyway, it's the whole thing about leaving your country to go and find life somewhere else. Now, I can't sit here as the son of and grandson of a Jamaican who left Jamaica in 1960 to come to the UK, who brought my mum in 1966 to the UK, who then had me in London. I can't sit here and slag off or slate or berate Nigerians for effectively doing what my grandfather did and that our Holy Caribbean people did. I suppose there may only be one difference. The English, when they came to the Jamaican, when they came to the Caribbean, they literally came there and asked us to come to fix up the motherland. Right? That's what these people here said. They literally came to Jamaica in just after the war, just after what white people like to call the Second World War, and they said, "Do you want? Please come back and help fix up the motherland." And my grandfather, if you like, was part of that wave. I'm not trying to fix it up and make it better, because the truth is, no poor Jamaicans, or rather, it was only poor Caribbeans, more or less, that left the Caribbean to come to the UK. Middle class Caribbean people and rich Caribbean people, honestly, didn't feel the need to leave. So we were economic migrants, and so I'm not going to sit here and knock Nigerian economic migrants. That's not what I'm going to do. What I am going to do is actually, well, you know, I think there's people that are going to be interviewed here that are going to put the case to stay and build Nigeria. And honestly, that's my point of view.
Huge is this problem that recently elected President Tinubu asked people in the diaspora in the US to come back home and forget the frustrations of the previous government.
And I think that's rude. Right, the whole thing about saying to grown professionals, because most of the Nigerians living in the US, living in the UK, living in Europe, are professional people. So to offer nothing other than forget what happened before, come here. That's just completely that's what Jamaicans would call rank stupid. No, you got to offer more. You got to offer more. Otherwise, why would they want to come back? Why would the average professional want to come back? Somebody like myself, somebody who wants to build up the African continent, I'm coming back, right? But you know, my reasons for wanting to, come back to the African continent are not necessarily going to be the same as, the average Nigerian or African professional.
But is this enough to allow the young people here to remain? That's the question we have today. And I'm going to begin with Samson. Now, you are one of the people who is saying that, look, this country is not really working out for me. And given the chance, I am taking the first flight out of here and never coming back. Why?
So I'm a digital entrepreneur. I think about me having solutions to many problems and then still trying to battle with infrastructure, thinking about power, thinking about my...
Now, you see, I'm going to be stopping this all the way through. I'm going to apologize in advance for that, but this is really, really important. This chap said he's a digital entrepreneur. Right now, these are the types of young guys and girls that the country, that the government needs to be putting time, effort, and money into. The future is digital. The future is digital. The African governments need to have a specific plan to foster brains in this area. Not only, what I mean by foster brains is to pump money into startup businesses. I'm going to be really honest again. Listen, Nigerians are some of the smartest people that I know, that I personally have ever met on planet Earth. Nigerians, you know, most of the black professionals that I've ever met have been Nigerian, you know. I'm not just saying that because I'm 50% Nigerian or Nigerian DNA. No. It's the truth, man. Right? Honestly, you know, most of the black professionals that I've met, right, in my life over the years have been of Nigerian descent, either directly or born in Nigeria or born in the UK of Nigerian parents. That's just the truth. As I understand it, many of the black doctors in the States are of Nigerian descent. You know, this has got to be understood. And I'm going to keep it positive as well. I know, listen, keep the negative comments, right? I'm happy to have a discussion, but I'm not going to be entertaining stuff about scamming and bits and pieces like that. I'm not even going to be making those jokes today. Normally I'd be happy to make those jokes, but you know, stuff like that is part of, in fact, we'll put that under the banner of corruption, and that will come up in this discussion anyway.
And I'm thinking about infrastructure that will help me do many things. I wouldn't want to do that. So I would think about me looking for a place where I have all of those things that can enhance my idea to create the solutions that I'm looking for.
Okay.
You cannot afford for these types of young people to be leaving Nigeria. And that's about government. That's about government being able to create an environment whereby these young people see it as worth their time to stay. That's just the God's honest truth. And that is the job of government.
Okay, so give me an idea of how frustrating it is, this lack of infrastructure on a normal day. Paint a picture for me.
So just imagine me getting into the airport or in the marketplace, and I need to quickly attend to one of my clients, and I don't have access to internet, or me trying to even use my data to do what I want to do, but I'm locked out because of the fact that the codes are not working and all of that. I've had several challenges like this where I'm trying to do something, but I mean, I get into the environment, there's no Wi-Fi that can make me do stuff, there's no infrastructure that can give me an idea of what I want to do. It's very frustrating.
Okay, so let me hear from other people here, just the state of affairs in Nigeria.
So just basic stuff, and it is frustrating. You know, you're trying to do business. In fact, you're a digital entrepreneur and you haven't got internet. Right. So you know, that is gonna be a massive problem. Also, sometimes there's power cuts, you know, or power curfews. Similar to the Caribbean as well. You know, as I understand it, that used to be quite regular in Jamaica. Less regular now, a lot less regular now. But if you are in a certain line of work, a certain profession, and you can't even have regular, solid, reliable Wi-Fi, then that's a problem. That's directly a problem. So that's one for the government to sort out. Even if it creates tech hubs, whereby startup entrepreneurs like that young man can actually go set up a small business in a business unit and get it going, right, and have reliable Wi-Fi. You know, that's something that the government's really got to do.
At the moment, how would you describe it, Oludayo?
So this case of Nigeria, yeah, you might see things are not working right, but it's not beyond redemption. Nigeria is going to be a better place if we all...
Data analyst of Echo Bank. So this guy's a banker, right? These are this young lady. I'm not saying that all Nigerians in Nigeria are you know, professionals, but this is a group of professional people. These are the people that Nigeria really needs to be keeping in the country. Or these are the types of young people that the government needs to make sure don't leave. And if the government cannot do that, the government needs to leave. It's as simple as that. And that is one of the big causes of what's going on now in Nigeria. Yeah. Nigerians want to stay. They want to stay in Nigeria. They don't want to leave. But sometimes, it's if you got rubbish, incompetent government, right? It's either the government leaves or the young people leave. And what the young people are saying now is, no, you know what? You, the government, you lot are going to leave. We're not leaving. You are going to leave. So I'm fully behind them.
Contribute our parts to make it a better place.
Okay, so you say it's going to be a better place, but what is the situation presently?
Yes, there's a reason why we are a developing nation, right? We are not as developed as the Western world, yes, but nevertheless, things are getting better.
I like the way you said not developed as the West is yet. In other words, we will be. Positive, man.
You can see unicorns springing up around everywhere. I'm in the data space, I'm in the tech space, so I can see a lot of things happening. So yes, things are getting better, and you can only hope that things get better.
Okay, so
amen. Things are getting better, but not due to the government. Things are getting better because young people are doing it for themselves, and that's a good thing. It's what young people are forced to do. When I got my art degree, I don't know, 25 years ago, whenever the hell that was, and a Canadian girl that was on the course said to me in her Canadian accent, hey, do you feel you got your degree in spite of the university? And that's exactly how I felt, because the course was very, very poorly run. It was a top university in London, but that particular course was seriously mismanaged. So, these young people, similarly, these young people are basically doing it in spite of the government. Does that make sense? And that's a terrible feeling.
things are getting better, and yet
not a terrible feeling, it's a terrible reality.
Nimide, as you so beautifully wrote in one of your articles for your blog, people are already leaving, and they're leaving in droves, and it's having an impact already, not just on society, but on your personal life. Can you tell me about that?
Well, things have gotten really lonely. Typically, you have to work. I normally run a very tight schedule. I love friendships, and I would be able to say on Monday, I'm hanging out with this person, I'm hanging out with that person. On Friday, but the shortage of friendships and the shortage of things to do it has really been on an increase. Beyond that,
what this woman's got to say is boring. Basically,
I also understand why
all she's doing is talking about
living in Nigeria is that the paradox is that there's a lot of individual brilliance, right? But things are really bad. You don't know when.
Why aren't people able to get what they need? Working very closely with the permanent.
Right. Okay. So this next guy that's going to talk, right? He's from the government, right? But listen to the typical African politician, and my wife often takes the mickey out of some of the meetings that her father goes to, right? But whereby somebody could talk. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to say, because it's just typical politician. Even the white ones in the UK can talk without saying anything. Listen, when you listen to, similar to, what's her name? Kamala Harris, the Jamaican Indian politician who wants to be president of the United States. She's just had a rally in America. She just had some horrible little, I don't know, black bimbo musical star dancing at one of her rallies recently, just twerking on stage. Basically taking the mickey out of ADOS FBA Americans, just to say, all you lot want to vote for me is a little twerker. Basically, this is all you lot need to vote for me, just a little black twerker, and then you lot will come vote for me, right? You see, do not let a politician off the hook lightly. Force politicians to give you specific answers to specific questions. That's really what I'm trying to say. This guy here, he talks, but he doesn't say anything. Listen.
Let me talk to Dr. Dapo here, because he is actually working very closely with...
I'd like to know, doctor of what?
The permanent secretary here in Lagos for the Youth Commission, correct? So
this guy's working for the government in Lagos for the Youth Commission. Now, listen to what he says.
If Lagos and Nigeria indeed is one of the biggest economies in Africa, why aren't people able to get what they need from this country?
Listen.
Well, that's a very tough question.
That's why I'm
bloody jackass.
asking you.
You see the people laughing because they know this man ain't going to say a damn word. He looks young though.
Challenge we have is the number of people compared to the resources that we have in this country, and also management of that resource.
So two problems. The number. Listen to what he said. Two problems that Lagos has got. One, the number of people in comparison to the resources. Obviously, which is why your job as a government is to build capacity. That's your job. The job of government is to build capacity and to produce, to manage and build production, to ensure that successive generations have got work. Basically, that's your job. And if you're not doing that, you're not doing a good job. You got to get out. You got to get out. Let's listen to the jackass again.
Challenge we have is the number of people compared to the resources that we have in this country, and also management of that resource.
And that's the government. Management of resources is directly down to the quality and professionalism and management skills of government. The specific job of government, right, whether it's local or central, is the management of national resources, the developing, the managing, all of that, the planning of national resources. So there is absolutely no point him telling these people there, all the people that are going to watch this on the internet, right, that those two things are the problems. Of course, those two things are the bloody problems. What else are we going to be talking about? Fool. Sorry, I've got to say that, but it's true. Whenever you hear someone, don't let a politician repeat back the problems to you when you already know them. What you want from him are solutions. He will, because what a politician wants to do is take take 5 minutes to tell you about the problems and then not give you any solutions. The interviewer let him off the hook too lightly. Listen.
We're a low middle income country, so we can't actually compare ourselves fully with the Western world, which is also a high income country. So I think it's natural that people move to places where there's a greener pasture.
Is that all you got to say? That is all you've got to say. This is why the young people are out on the street. God bless them. This is why the young people are out on the street. Because men like this, although this guy looks young, right, but people like this have got no solutions. They can tell you what the problem is. You see, what it is, a lot of black people can always articulate what the problem is, but can never actually give you any solid answers.
Find a bit disturbing is the number of people.
Exactly. And just
the number of people, because the government hasn't got any rock solid ideas as to solutions. And to be honest, the solutions are not even necessarily that deep. It's because the Nigerian government, in my opinion, is in the pockets, like a lot of other African countries, are in the pockets of Western powers. Nigeria is full of black Nigerian professionals, smart, like all African countries, full of raw resources. They're pretty much walking on a gold mine. I don't mean literal gold, but raw resources. It's turning the raw resources into secondary goods. But if you're in the pockets of Western powers, it's never going to work. Nothing's going to work.
For the information or for the benefit of our audience, a recent report stated that nearly 70% of Nigerians actually would want to leave this country, to leave elsewhere. But not everybody does. And in fact, some people want to return. And that's the story.
And that's sad. 70%. 70%. But that's not the full story. So let's hear what this woman has to say. Let's hear what she's got to say.
Of Antoleki here. Tell us more.
Yes, I'm actually a...
So look, we'll carry on a little bit with this, but pretty much, I think that sort of more or less sums up a lot of the issues for the current youth protests at the moment. We're talking about high cost of living caused by high inflation. Zero, as far as I'm concerned, very few ideas coming from government, symbolized by that one young chap. I mean, I know he's not the government, but in this conversation, he represents the government because he said he works with local government. So he represents the government. And just remember why we're looking at this. We're looking at this because it's all about other places where we can go, getting used to places as men where we can go to access a better quality of life. Now, you may say to me, are you serious? This doesn't sound like a better quality of life for me. as far as I'm concerned. And I understand the point, but quality of life, you know, 1 is financial, 2 is your mental health, 3 is the type of relationship you can form, the opportunities to have a family. Bearing in mind that men in the West, we lose wealth through divorce, right? We literally lose wealth. There's a wealth transfer for men in general, black men in particular, through divorce in the West. So the idea is to move to places, 1, where the women are less likely to divorce, and 2, where there possibly are business opportunities opening up. And I want to make it clear, even though these guys are highlighting a lot of issues around business, I just want to make it clear there are massive business opportunities, not just in Nigeria, but right around the African continent. And also the third thing is your own mental health. Your own mental health. And someone in this conversation is going to touch on that.
Rakba. I wasn't born in Nigeria.
So what is Rakba?
Coming back. I wasn't born in Nigeria. I didn't go to school in Nigeria. I didn't do anything at Nigeria. I came to Nigeria for the first time when I was 20. And then, so on and off, I've been in Nigeria for 10 years, and I have absolutely no intention of ever moving back to America. And it's intriguing because Samson here mentioned something that is the problem.
And, you know, as I said, there's a lot of black non-FBA professionals working in the States, whether they're from the Caribbean or from somewhere on the African continent. Actually, no, I won't speak on that.
To me, he said that he's a problem solver. So I don't understand why a problem solver would be leaving a place that has problems. We need his talent, and that's my issue with Japa. People can travel and do whatever the heck they want to do, but it is our quality individuals are leaving, and that is what the problem is. By all means, go and travel.
This lady's wrong. The problem, she's not looking. I'm not saying she doesn't understand, but verbally, she said that the problem is the quality individuals, basically Nigerian professionals leaving, right? I'm sure she understands this, even though she hasn't said that that's not the root cause. The root cause is the lack of good governance. And part of that is the degree to which, or the fact that the governors or people in power of Nigeria are actually in the pockets of Western powers. So I'm not saying she doesn't understand that, but in this conversation, she hasn't exactly spoken to that.
Abroad, go to school, have university experiences, but please bring those experiences back.
Okay. Hey, whoa.
Basically, for me, the word Japa has a literal meaning and a figurative meaning. So literally in Yoruba, it means to run away. And when you say someone is running away, something is chasing you, right? And most of the time, it's like you don't have a particular purpose or a reason. You just want to run. If something happens here, everybody just runs. Everybody just disperses. There's no particular direction. But then there are some Nigerians who still have hope in Nigeria and come in the figurative part, which is you're moving with a purpose. There are Nigerians who intend to go and come back. There are Nigerians who go to improve themselves personally and professionally to come back. And there are lots of them who have come back to create opportunities for other people. So Nigeria is a developing country, right? But then there are countries that have more.
And I want to say this about developing countries in general. In 2024, Africa has got a very, very young, educated population. We have to understand that, that there is power in that. There is massive untapped power in that. If Africa ever had, if Africa, when Africa has in the future, let's put this a bit better. As I said, you've got Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. I said that at the top of the stream. Those three countries have broken away from France. They used to be called Francophone countries. Yeah, but the leadership, those three leaders of those three countries are now fully for their own people and their own countries. They formed an alliance with a young population, with young populations in each country. If other African nations can get that kind of leadership with the young professional populations that they've got, Africa will be completely unstoppable. Completely unstoppable. So when we say developing, that is what I take it to mean. Anything other than that doesn't mean anything.
Resources, more infrastructure than we have. And it's not a big deal if some persons want to go, get better, and come back. At the same time, you can't also stop people from wanting to go and not come back. It still ends up with every individual opinions and choice.
And there's emigration from every country. You know, in the UK, you got a lot of white people that basically for the last, I don't know, 40 years have moved to Costa del Sol, Spain, have moved to Italy, other parts of Europe to retire. It's as simple as that, or Australia, or even South Africa. So you've had white people leaving to go to those countries. And then you've had people from those countries, mainly young people, coming to the UK for jobs. Effectively, so that push and pull has always been there.
At the end of the day.
Okay, so I want to talk to Dr. Fowler for a second, because you're a doctor and then also, interestingly, a visual artist. I have no idea how you manage those two schedules. I can barely keep mine up. So your industry, medicine, is one of the worst affected by JAPA, at least from the reports that we're hearing. Tell us a little bit about that. Are you seeing an impact?
Almost 90% of the people I went to school with have left the country.
Wow.
There's something about being a medical doctor.
Now, that's a brain drain. 90% of the people you went to school with in Nigeria as doctors that went to medical college in his class that he knows have left the country. Now that is unsustainable. And again, you know, that's down to the leaders of the country. The leaders of the country have to think about, if they can't stem that flow, they've got to leave. They've got to step down. Part and parcel of the job of developing African nations is to reverse the brain drain, and you know they've got to have a specific plan for that. They can't just rely on people who, men like me that are coming back to look for opportunities and a better standard of living and all the rest of it. I mean, that's one source, but it's about stopping the young people from leaving. You know, young professionals from leaving rather.
That Nigeria is really failing at. If you go to other countries, Western countries, there's this huge amount of respect. And, there's a care that's given to medical doctors that we do not have here. The fee is very...
That is true. But I think later on, someone's going to talk about the amount of racism that Black people face in the West. And, I'm going to be really honest again. A lot of Nigerians, a lot of Africans that I speak to that live on the continent simply have no idea. Until they leave and come and experience it for themselves, they simply have no idea about the level of racism that we've grown up with in the West, in the UK, in America. Now, when you talk about racism, some people think it's a dirty word and that you shouldn't mention it. You know, it's just a chip on your shoulder. You're looking for excuses. Completely ridiculous. You know, as if you're stupid. You know, no, we have the right to articulate our lived experiences. The lived experience of my grandfather when he came here in 1960, the stories that he told me of the running battles he had in Brixton, of the racism I saw my mom experience. Come on, man. And the racism I've experienced. So no. And when you talk to Africans that live on the continent, they seem to have zero knowledge of any of that. And, I get it because it's not been their experience. It's one of those things whereby they have to come and experience that for themselves. I hope they never experience racism for themselves. But, for some of them, that's what it's going to take, along with understanding or experiencing the fact that, London streets are not paved with gold. But, that's called what? That's called experiential learning.
Very bad. The living conditions very bad. And, if you break down what the government is giving to the doctors in the country here, it's really bad. I have a lot of hope for the new the new regime, hoping that things will change for sure. I'm also hoping that my colleagues will also come back to the country when they've developed themselves and all that. But most people just want to run. If you're a doctor, there's no reason for you to be in Nigeria. That is what everybody says.
Okay, let me come back to Oludayo here for a second, because you said that, things are bad, but there's no reason to go. When you hear Dr. Fallow speaking, I mean, surely those two worlds don't belong together.
So I'm not saying there's no reason to go, right? But if you're going, what's your intention? If everybody leaves Nigeria, so who will build Nigeria? That's the truth. We all have to go. Yes, you can go get.
Well, number one, everyone's not going to be leaving Nigeria. Everyone's not going to be leaving any country. It's as simple as that. So I don't really think that's the conversation. I think the conversation is what's happening now. The fact that you've got young people out on the street who more than likely cannot leave Nigeria, but can get rid of their leadership. So that's where we are 5 months later. This film was made 5 months ago.
The knowledge and come back and build Nigeria. Come and cause disruption in Nigeria. Yes, there's a problem, right? When you face a problem, when you solve the problem, you create opportunity. Come to Nigeria, get the knowledge over there.
I definitely agree with that. So, see, here's the thing, right? When you go to another country, guess what you bring with you? You bring yourself. In other words, you may not see yourself as the problem, but actually you bring yourself with you, and I've got to say it, potentially you bring the problem with you, right? So it's a big person, it's a big man who can stay somewhere and help to fix something. I'm not telling people to do that. All I'm saying is a big man or woman who can actually stay and fix a problem. A big man who can stay and fix a problem or help to fix a problem. Yeah.
Come back and create opportunity in Nigeria and make Nigeria a better place.
Okay.
I don't
Part of that, though, is about getting rid of the leadership.
I don't agree because hope is not a strategy. You don't hope, you keep hoping for 60 years. We have people in power who are not concerned. Hope
is not a strategy. It's the truth. I agree with that. Totally agree with that. Hope is not a strategy. Planning on paper, having a strategic plan and planning on paper. That's what's needed.
About the people that are concerned about their pocket. Imagine me get out of the country, get out the knowledge, come back, and I'm being sabotaged, I'm being killed just because I need to strike a deal with someone in government to make my idea come to reality. I mean, we're talking about a country where you can literally not see what will happen the next time. No security, no infrastructure. They're telling me that I should go. No. I'm not saying that all the countries are not like that. I'm saying that there are things that I should be certain about. There are things that should be norm for me, provided by the government. That's the reality of what we are talking about.
Give me a second, because Nimide.
Yes, and I also think that you can't discount the fact that the problems in Nigeria are very institutional. People leave this country. I have friends who have left this country, and in 3 years they have houses because there's mortgage systems. We don't have that in Nigeria.
Did you hear her? You see, this is the fallacy, right? That a lot of people in the Caribbean and in Africa have about Western countries, right? That you can. Did you actually said, right? People that she knows leave, and I'm not talking, in this kind of conversation, someone's going to say, well, I know someone. What we're always talking about is the majority of people. Majority. She said that people leave Nigeria, go to the West, and in 3 years have a house. Have a house. Ridiculous. How do they know? In other words, right? Number one, how do they know they own the house, or are they renting the house? People say all kinds of things. True story, right? In the Caribbean, when people used to leave Jamaica in the late 60s, everyone, the people that went and moved to Brixton, everybody used to go to and get their photograph taken at a famous studio on Lander Road. Lander Road, right? The studio was called Harry Jacobs Studio. Anybody of my generation would know that studio. I got my photograph taken there. The whole Caribbean community in that area, right, used to go to Harry Jacobs Studio and get a photograph taken, because his studio, you could dress up in your nice clothes. You could have a telephone in your hand. You'd be sitting on a nice chair. You know, he would put you in a pose against the backdrop. The pictures, he made you look like you were balling, man. He made you look like you had money. He made you look like you had arrived. He made it look like, you know, you were doing it, right? And the idea was, and they're going to talk about it in a minute, the idea was to give the impression to the people that you left back home that you were doing really, really well. They all did it. That generation all did it. They all did it. But the truth is, right, the reality was very, very far from the truth. You remember, you know, they're nurses, cleaners, seamstresses, working on public transport in the UK, builders. Not saying any of those jobs are bad, but they're not, you know, they're not raking in the cash. That's the point. And having to deal with the amount of racism that our grandparents and parents had to deal with as well. And my generation, right? You know, 40 years later, 50, 60, 70 years later, you got to ask that generation. I mean, they're all dead now, but I did ask my granddad, I did ask my mum, was it worth it? My mum used to get annoyed. When I asked her that question, she got annoyed at me because she knew it wasn't worth it. She knew it wasn't worth it. Yeah, in answer to what that woman just said.
We do not have that in Nigeria, and it's even if we do, it's accessible. I think that we come from a place of, I think that we're coming from a place of privilege. If you think
let's listen to.
I think that it comes from a place of privilege. If you think that a normal person can access the things that you say that is no.
This is the problem. I think oftentimes because we have access to social media, we think everyone's life is perfect. It's not like that. Even
Exactly.
in the abroad, you have to have a certain kind of salary to get certain.
Exactly. Because you look, listen, things you see on social media, on cable television, that's not true. You know, people put forward images on their Facebook profiles. People go and take photographs outside houses, sitting on cars that they don't own. They don't own this. They don't own it. And then they send these pictures back home, or they put, you know, they upload the photographs to their social media, and then your family and your friends see you and think it's yours. Think you're living the life of Riley, and none of it. You don't own it. What they don't know is that you're a cleaner in a hospital. They don't know that. They don't understand that you're literally a road sweeper. Not so I think road sweepers earn good money actually, but you got to have a degree now to be a road sweeper. But you're a cleaner in a hospital, literally. You know, just because you've taken fancy photographs, they don't understand that actually you are fully at the bottom of the food chain. They don't understand that. They don't understand that. They don't understand that your what you earn, basically after you've paid your rent for your room or your apartment, after you paid your rent, they don't understand that you've barely got £2 to go out and buy food with. They don't get it because you see where they are, you can literally go and pick food off a tree and eat it, literally. Where are you going to do that in England? Where can you go and pick food off a tree in England and eat it? There's nowhere. Nowhere can you pick food off a tree and eat it in England. It's not going to happen. Can you imagine, right, being able to walk around England and pick food off a tree and eat it? Honestly, right, we took a trip to Jamaica. This is years ago, about 20 years ago. We went to my mother's land. Right, we got second and not even second cousins. We got fourth cousins and fifth cousins, literally living on the land, eating from the trees, not even working, just eating from the trees. You can't do that in London. You can't. There's nowhere you can do that in any Western country. You can't just go and pick food off the trees and eat. And I'm not saying you could do that in every part of Nigeria, but I know you could do it in some parts of Nigeria. You just can't do it anywhere here. Everything you put in your mouth in the UK comes from a shop, and you have to pay for it. And the truth is, food, even rubbish food in the UK, the cost of it is sky high. Honestly, it's sky high. Ridiculous, man. Totally ridiculous. Let's play this again.
No. This is the problem. I think oftentimes because we have access to social media, we think everyone's life is perfect. It's not like that. Even in the abroad, you have to have a certain kind of salary to get a certain kind of mortgage, to get a certain kind of house. Everywhere has its own kind of strategies and rules. He said something about a doctor, and I know even when I was trying to study medicine, doctors are supposed to have some kind of ingrained reason to want to help people. So for the fact that people are running away because of money is a problem to me. You took an
And again, I disagree with what this woman's saying. You know, I don't blame professional people for going somewhere else to access a better quality of life. That's not my argument. And I think what this woman needs to do is acknowledge why he's going, really acknowledge why he's going. Just because this is a woman who's been living in the States, who's decided to come back to Nigeria. I understand that. I totally get it. Personally, I want to help build up the motherland as well. That's central to who and what I am too. But I am not going to, what's the word? I'm not going to say that his drive to want to, and how he wants to create a better life for himself is completely wrong. I'm not going to do that. I would like young professionals, young Black professionals, young African, Nigerian professionals to stay in the country and help do the work, help build the country. But, that's not for, that game is not for everyone. That game is not for everyone. It's just not. All right. Most people on earth historically, rather than stay and build up their country, most people in history, going right the way back, have always left their country to find a life somewhere else. You've always had just a remnant, just a vanguard, just a small minority of people that have only ever stayed throughout history in any country to help develop and build it up. And the flies always come back to a bulb. If there's a bright bulb, flies will always come back. I'm not comparing Nigerians who want to leave Nigeria to flies. I'm just using it as a analogy. All right. So I think that's where this woman's it's a lot of emotion, but it's just not really looking at things from the other person's point of view.
To save lives.
But don't you think? Hold on, let me.
And when you speak like her, then basically what she doesn't understand is that people don't have to listen to you or dialogue with you. They can simply just turn around and walk away, which is because it's a free world, it's a free country. And that's where she loses people. That's where that kind of dogmatic, narrow view, it just loses people. It's as simple as that.
That took 8 years for the government to fix.
And
that took 8 years for the government to fix. And when this problem was addressed, what did the government say? They said it was a spiritual attack on the medical profession.
Hold on.
That's quite funny, right? So listen to this, right, very quickly. Right. So she's basically making a point about, I think, the issues with the medical system in Nigeria. She says if she's being honest and accurate and correct, she's saying that what the politician or a politician said at the end of whatever conversation they had or whatever they said or did was that it's a spiritual attack. So in other words, no practical solutions to problems.
Took 8 years for the government to fix. That took 8 years for the government to fix. And when this problem was addressed, what did the government say? They said it was a spiritual attack on the medical profession.
Hold on.
And so you should go to church and pray. Go to church and pray. Just lay down some and then that will fix the problem that the government has so far failed to fix. All right, just pray.
Hold on.
The Bible says faith without works is dead faith, by the way.
Hold on. Let's just come back to center for a second. You said something about the medical. profession and questioned what is driving the doctor's desires and what their motivation is. Yes, and Nimide is trying to explain something.
This is a sense of belonging. This is beyond pay. This is a sense of he did say that there's a level of ingrained respect that comes to the profession in other countries, and I feel like we'll be disillusioned if we say that we don't see it. We see it, we hear about it, we hear about the systems. I mean, there are complaints in the UK about NHS systems. Everybody knows that. But the truth is, if you are a
so she said there's complaints in the UK about the National Health Service, right? Yeah, I mean, the National Health Service in the UK is patchy. I think it's a good idea. But honestly, you are better, and whatever you get with the NHS service, I would recommend you have private healthcare as well on top. Especially going forward, because the national health system, it's got holes in it. It's as simple as that. It's got holes in it, and it's worse for Black people as well. Go online, look at all the statistics for how Black people fare in the National Health Service in the UK. Just go and have a look for yourself. Have a look for yourself.
systems. Everybody knows that. But the truth is, if you are a medical doctor, you put 9 years, am I correct? 9 years, 9 years of your life into caring for people, into catering for people, into making sure that people are alive, into basically being God in some sense. Then you should deserve that level of respect from the government.
Okay, now, because we've invoked the name of doctors here, let's reintroduce him to the discussion. Now, the question was posed, you know, what is the motivation for a doctor? But of course, if the conditions are so terrible, as Nimide is explaining, then why should you stay? But if you don't stay, that's the other part. Who then gets to fix the system?
Now, we need to say the first thing is very important. You're trying to downplay the importance of pay, and that is very, very bad. These doctors are not machines. Do you understand?
The truth is, if you're a medical professional anywhere in Africa, you can, for doing the same job, you can get paid a lot more in the West. It's as simple as that. It is literally that simple. Financially, there is no incentive for medical doctors to remain in Nigeria. It's as simple as that. It's literally that simple. There's only two things that's going to keep them. One, good governance or better governance. And the other thing, well, that's it. It's as simple as that. And which hopefully better governance will hopefully raise the pay of medical professionals. It's literally that simple. So so the point is an obvious one. Unless the government in schools can teach children the need to stay and build up their own country, that's the other thing. I mean, that's a long game. I think African countries need to do that anyway, but there you go.
Understand. Now, we work in a system where you work morning shifts and night shifts. You understand? We have periods where you have to work the whole weekend. Do you understand? How do you give your services, your mind, your hands, when you're thinking about your rent, when you're thinking about your transportation, when you're thinking about data, when you're thinking about your family? You understand? Most people come from families where the mother, the father, everybody.
Absolute point. Obviously, if your job's not, if you don't know when you're going to get paid, because that's the case sometimes, or if your wages do not cover your mortgage or your bills and all the rest of it, or your health care and all the rest of it, putting your kids through college or uni or school or whatever, because enough in Nigeria, there's a lot that is not free. If you have the headache of having to worry about all of that, then, you may begin to consider life elsewhere. But the truth is, pay in the UK for GPs, for family doctors, for hospital doctors is more, I think. Although having said that, God, what do they call them? The young doctors, excuse me, the young doctors have or seem always to be on strike in the UK anyway. But there's another thing, if you're a doctor in the UK, you got to put up with it again within that profession, a serious level of racism, man. I've seen it. I was in hospital, God, at the beginning of last year, and I saw it for myself. I literally saw it for myself. I saw it for myself, yeah. So all of that. And another little story, years and years and years ago, but God, how many years ago? About 20, but literally about 24 years ago, I dated a Nigerian doctor. I think she had been practicing for a couple of years. She said something to me. She said that when she was training, she trained at quite a popular medical school in London. She wanted to make a complaint. When they found out that she was planning on making a complaint, they dragged her into the course director's office, and they basically said to her, "Listen, she was advised to keep her head down, study, get her qualification, and leave. Otherwise, it will be bad for her." Right? Otherwise, it would be bad for her. And I've since learned that there's a lot of bullying in the medical profession in the UK, particularly of black staff, whether they be not just doctors, but whether they be nurses, whatever level they operate in the UK. There's a lot of bullying. There's been TV programs made about it, but like anything, people have to come and experience it for themselves, and then they will know. You can't. It's very difficult to tell people about what life is like growing up and living, trying to survive, trying to have some level of life in the West. People have to come and experience it for themselves.
Everybody's borrowing money to send this boy to school. You get there, you become a medical doctor. You're hardly at home because you have a lot of shifts, so many patients to see, first of all, because in Nigeria we have about 4,000 patients to one doctor. And so I don't mind, I'm okay with seeing as many as I want to see, you understand? But what happens to me?
And that's an impossible situation, man. 4,000 people to one doctor. And that is a direct result of the brain drain. But, it's really poor governance. That's what's really behind it. Poor governance.
Where do I go to after seeing everybody? Where am I sleeping? What am I eating?
All right, let's bring.
And also, if he's seen 4,000 people, right, or trying to see 4,000 people, what time does he have for his family? What about his wife and kids? When is his wife and kids going to see him?
In also, because I hear her nodding, you have something to add to this?
I was nodding because I had an experience where I went to the doctor to get a diagnosis, and in the middle of diagnosing, he was dozing off. And I asked him, "Are you okay?" He said, "Yes, I'm not okay. I have been working all day."
There you go.
We do 1 person to 100 people per day as a doctor. That is crazy. And I'm hearing 4,000
Wow.
to a doctor. That's even, much more explosive. I want to agree with something she said.
Now, remember, we're talking about this in relation to the youth uprising that's currently going on in Nigeria, and also in relation to places where black men in general, but black men in particular, where we can go and find a better quality of life. We know, as we've been talking all along, we're not running away from what's happening across the continent and in Nigeria in terms of poor governments and the struggles that the people have. But in light of all of that, I am still saying that Nigeria is still worth a look at. If you are a black guy, black man who's looking for legacy, quality of life, better mental health, less stress, less racism, and legacy, a family. I'm still saying my argument is still that Nigeria is definitely worth a look, and in terms of the opportunities that exist in Nigeria and across the continent. So that's my argument. Okay.
Said when she talked about looking at dynamics, there is the dynamic of privilege. I'm not trying to downplay because she said that she lived abroad all her life and then she came. It's a different feeling when you're coming from there, when you've been raised from there and you come down here. We need to also look at
it's a different feeling, not just feeling. It's not feeling. Being born, brought up in the West, you know the way it really is. And honestly, more people should listen to people that are returning home, that have come to live in Nigeria from the West. More people in Nigeria should actually listen to these people and listen to why they've decided to travel all the way from the lovely West to come and live in a country like Nigeria that a lot of you guys want to run away from. Why would any black person or person of African heritage leave the lovely lap of the West, brilliant West, and come to live in Nigeria? Why? That's the question that these brothers and sisters really need to ask. Are we stupid?
Dynamics of privilege when we're discussing these things. We cannot give a one-size-fits-all approach of view to everybody's reason for leaving.
All right. Dr. Dopa, let me get you for a second, because you've been silently observing everyone very pensively.
This man he doesn't want to be there. This is the government rep.
What are your thoughts?
All right, so I think there is what I would describe as a push and pull factors to people.
Look, this, you see what it is, politicians, right? They never ever give you their point of view. They only ever tell you what everyone else has already said. It's a trick. It's a way. What politicians do, they fill up air, right, without saying anything. They speak a lot of words with literally without saying a damn thing. All they do is sum up stuff really slowly. That's it. That's it. The young people are not happy. Basically, that's all they do. That is literally all they do, man. That is all politicians do. Seriously.
People living. Something is forcing people out. On the other hand, something is being incentivized.
Now remember, this man's working for the government.
People in. It's important we know that the countries we're talking about too are not interested in taking the worst of us. So there's a dynamic. We train skillful people at low cost, and we have a huge population of young, hardworking people.
Yes, and the question, of course, that Dr. Fola then comes to mind: how do you incentivize him to stay? You know,
Here we go.
Okay, so yes, now there are several things we can't do to incentivize him to stay. Firstly, we have to answer the question of our love for country. I mean, every citizen of every country should be primarily interested in their country, first of all. Then secondly, there are things that the government can do to make life be better for people, which is also what I believe that we should be clamoring for. Not necessarily because again, we have to look at being resourceful. You cannot have somebody have an.
So this guy, so far, he's been talking for almost a minute, and he's not said anything that no one else has said. Now, remember, the reason why the interview has gone to him is to try and get some solutions.
Opportunity to practice somewhere in the United Kingdom, and the person would naturally want to be here. I mean, the person would obviously want to live for something better because that's the normal human tendency.
Okay, please go ahead.
He spoke for about a minute and didn't say anything. You notice that? Now, so she probably doesn't want to be confrontational, but if it were me, I would drill him until it was clear he didn't know what he was talking about. Either that, or I'd force him to commit to an answer. Maybe she cut it out because there's a bit of a jump. There's a bit of a jump from one scene to this scene. So maybe clearly whatever he said was of no worth, and she just cut it out.
Let me just say this. I am not against people leaving. By all means, do what you want to do. But I'm often hearing some things like that side is amazing, and it is not. First and foremost, we need to look at the color of our skin. I'll say it here. Being black and being abroad is not friendly.
It's the truth. It's the truth. Now, I know there's going to be some black people in the West, in the USA, and in the UK and in Europe that are gonna hate, and probably some white people that are going to watch this as well, that are going to hate a black person, that hate when black people talk about racism, and which makes no sense because racism is the lived experience of many, not all, black people who live in the West. We're talking about just recently, we had a black woman, FBA woman in America. I can't remember what part of America, a sister called Massey. I can't remember what her first name is. She was shot and killed by a white American policeman in her own house. She called the police, this racist copper, this racist policeman who had prior issues, worked for various police forces in the States and all kinds of nonsense. For some reason, none of that was picked up. She called for police to come round to her house because she thought there was some sort of intruder lurking around her house. She spoke to them outside of her house. She made the mistake, I've got to say, of inviting them into her house. She probably didn't realize that she was inviting a crazy, nasty, disgusting racist into her house. This woman went into a kitchen area. This racist, you know, picked up unloaded shots into her head. Now, that's what you call racism. that's basically what it looks like. And obviously, you know, you've got overt aggressions like that, and then you've got something called microaggressions. Some people are going to say, how do you measure microaggressions? Now, I want to make it clear. In the UK, listen, the ACAS website, which is a tribunal website where workers can bring grievances against their employers. Go and read it, because on that website it says microaggressions is illegal. Is illegal, and it basically says if you felt that it was a microaggression, it was. That is what that website says. Basically, it's there to protect you. You know, the amount of black people over the years that I know that have put up with microaggressions and overt aggressions at work, in the workplace, been overlooked for promotions and all kinds of stuff. Over the last 35 years? It's been a lot. So, you know, but, you know, like all things, people have to go and experience it for themselves. You can't tell people about that kind of stuff because they don't believe you, because they don't understand what racism is. Most Africans think white people love them. It's the truth. I'm not saying there's not some good white people. I know there are. I know some good white people. You know, some white people are my best friends. But I think you get the point. But I think, you know, anyway.
In America, I was American. I was Black American. So now that's even different than being an immigrant in America. It's an extremely different experience. Everyone should go and have a blast. But those stories we hear about people living abroad and how they feel, they're very valid and true. So by all means, if you'd rather deal with racism over tribalism, go and have a blast. But I don't want people to think that.
She said, would you rather deal with racism or tribalism? As far as I'm concerned, both are a killer. Racism and tribalism both are a killer. Look at Rwanda 30 years ago. Both are a killer. If you think that crazy nonsense that happened in Rwanda cannot happen again, it can. That is the problem with tribalism, which is why I thought it was great that when the young people in Kenya rose up, they themselves said, this is cross-tribal lines. That is what needs to happen. So they can't divide and conquer you.
Automatically, once you go, it's going to be amazing. Even if you are that skilled, excellent talent, you will still face challenges. So my charge is that if you're going to go, please just take those resources and please bring them back to Nigeria. We need it. Okay. That's it.
I think what she said there was a lot more rounded, and you know, you notice it didn't really get the same. In what she said there was a lot more coherent, a lot more rounded, and didn't elicit a negative response from everybody else. Yeah.
There was another statement here from the back.
I just want to say, I would rather be discriminated against
she's
in a foreign country
right?
than be killed in my
So she's attractive. That woman is attractive.
own country.
Nice hair, nice natural hair, man. Good.
And then you don't have to do nothing to be killed in Nigeria. There's something called don't let Nigeria, it's a phrase, don't let Nigeria happen to you. And what that means is don't let the system fail you. And I think a lot of people are leaving because Nigeria has failed one too many people. And if we all, I mean, if this country is empty, maybe the government would finally wake up because they'd be sleeping on the bicycle.
Okay. Now, there's something interesting which I discovered as I was doing research on this topic, which is where exactly Nigerians are going. And not surprisingly, the countries that top the list are Canada, US, Europe, and only one African country featured on that list, and that was Ghana. So if they
And so, yeah, interesting. So most Nigerians are looking to go to, have already gone to, or are going to the USA. And the UK, have always come here to the UK. And the only other African country where they're going to en masse is Ghana. Interesting.
idea is to better your lives and not really to live in the abroad, as we are saying. Why not move to fellow African countries? Why not go to Senegal?
Because obviously it's more money. You know, you get paid a hell of a lot more money in the US, to a lesser extent the UK.
Can anybody help me with that answer?
I mean, so I'm sure you know what is happening currently in Ghana. You know the situation in Ghana currently. It's a developing country.
Yes, true. But I mean, if you're telling me that the problem is infrastructure, internet, access to healthcare, there are many African countries which can support you in those fields.
Okay, so tell me one or two of the countries.
Kenya is one of them.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you.
She said Kenya, and obviously you've got the young people uprising in Kenya at the moment. But yeah, no, Kenya is a great country, man. Got to say, Kenya. And my assessment of Kenya is that it's a great country. Got serious potential. Great young people, a great young crowd. I think the future is going to look amazing, not just for Kenya, but for a lot of these African countries. You know, I see a brilliant future personally. But anyway.
So I'm not saying that remember that I didn't mention.
I'm just trying to figure out if it's a fantasy about living in a Western world or if it's about truly improving your life. You had a point, and then I'll come to you.
Okay, so what I wanted to talk about is where he mentioned that the disadvantage outweighs the advantage, but he doesn't mind, right? I wanted to ask him, like, have you checked the number of people who are currently trapped and who are in trouble but can't come back home? I mean, even in the countries that you're attracted to, that you think everything is rosy and beautiful, and then you can develop your skills. There are so many Nigerians that are trapped but cannot come back home. So that's the point I wanted to make.
And that speaks to a point that I made earlier on, where, you know, just this whole thing of what I assume she means by being trapped is just the whole thing about where the jobs are not what you thought they were, where the cost of living in the country where you've gone to is higher than what you thought, where your wages that you're earning for your cleaning job, even if you're a professional person in that country, where the wages are not as high as what you thought you might get, and the bills, depending on what city or town, what area you're in, are a lot higher than what you envisioned them to be. Right, where you don't, over the course of 5-10 years, you don't actually secure a house, property, assets enough to go back home with, you know, enough to go, because, you know, you go back to Nigeria, you go back to the Caribbean, you go back to your host, you know, to your home country. You can't go back with nothing. People expect you to come back with something. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, you know, they're going to say to you, what, you went away all those years, you killed yourself working, experienced all that racism, and you came back with nothing. What was it? And then the next question. So what was the point? you know.
The effects years later are devastating. We don't talk about mental health issue a lot in this country. We don't even care about it. Like, you fell down, stand up, stop being silly. We have a system of shame.
So I do understand that what she's saying, I've heard, is correct. You know, the African countries don't necessarily, what's a good way of saying it? Don't necessarily, that mental health care isn't necessarily what it should be. But what she doesn't understand is that in the UK, right, as I said at the very beginning of this stream, per head of population, you've got more Black people in mental institutions per head of population than white people, or, you know, per head of population, that is, and that there's more Black people in mental institutions in the UK per head of population than there is in any African country, and that's when you adjust for, you know, mental health provision and care and all the rest of it, right? And then, and this is on the Mind website, MIND, it goes on to say, I'm paraphrasing, so there's something about being Black in a white country that drives Black people crazy. Right, that's a massive paraphrase, but that's basically what the website says. That's the Mind website, MIND. Do go and check it out for yourself.
When people japa and they don't make enough money, they come back home and people are laughing at them. When people go through stuff, and so they hide that shame. So there is already that system. We have so many things we need to change. It is not just the government; it is us, each and every one of us. Our mindsets. There is pride.
That I do agree with. You see, it's not just the job of government to create good governance. It's actually the job of every citizen in any country. Yeah. Without boring you too much, I sat there for some, where I used to live, my next door neighbor was, he was ex-British Army. For some reason, him and his wife kept, you know, inviting me around for tea. I didn't want to go. Right. But anyway, I gave in and I sat down and I had tea with them, right? And he was quite happy to tell me about his life in the British Army, about he fought in the Afghanistan. He fought in in the Falklands, and he told me about the British Empire, what made the British Empire great in his opinion. And he kept saying something. He kept saying, "It's the people. It's the people. It's us. It's the people." He also kept talking about how they used to, how they won in Afghanistan, and it was throughout the British Empire is by divide and conquer. It was all his words, divide and conquer, especially when it came to Afghanistan. Those were his words. And all I did, I just sat and listened to him. I found it was probably one of the most interesting, I didn't really talk. I just listened to him. He's probably one of the most interesting people I've ever listened to, because he said it. He taught me a lot. That's what he did. He taught me a lot. But anyway,
when a child goes abroad and then he's sending money home to build houses and all, so there is that shame. I'm coming back home. I'm going to hide myself. Even here, let's forget about people that go abroad. Even here, right? You would see someone riding a big car, and you see someone checking, and he toasts you. Would you agree? You wouldn't, because there's already that ingrained in us from when we were little. Girls are raised to be a competition with each other, so it's a hard topic. But yes, the shame is there. It is in family. It is in every system, every unit from the family. So if we're going to build confidence,
really
it has to start from the family. So we're going to change that with this generation.
All right. Oh, we've never had clapping mid-debate before. Yes, you can. And as Dr. Fowler says something, I want you to think about solutions, right?
Solutions.
I completely agree with what she said. You understand? Having the shame is not just only about if you leave and you're forced to come back. If you fail in Nigeria too, you will hide yourself. So no, it's true. Everybody wants to do it. Why you move with purpose. You have a skill. You have a reason. You know your plan. You know what you're going to do, and you have to come back for sure. You understand? Don't leave. A lot of people, and it's true. There are more people leaving without a plan, without a purpose, more than that those living with purposes.
To secure your future, because that's really what you're fighting for. And I want to see, how many people would rather stay based on this conversation today? How many people will say, I'm going to be in Nigeria, come what may?
Half and half.
We're not going to have manipulation of the election here. All right. And okay. And let's see how many people would still want to Japa. Okay, I think
50%.
We're almost split down the middle. So the question is, how do we make sure that not that people don't leave? There's nothing intrinsically wrong with people wanting to emigrate, and
I've only got a couple
but that
more
people
minutes
want to come back and build this country. How does that happen? Any ideas?
Solutions.
First, I think it's very important that we look within, like we've been talking about purpose. I think it's also very key that we need to be honest with ourselves and do research. I know many people are speaking from a point of frustration and anger, but we can even look at this current.
And you see, and so many people are looking from the point of view of frustration and anger. Absolutely. And that's the whole reason for, and they've got a right to. Yeah. You've got to be able to rely on your government for solutions, or they need to step down. You've got to get rid of them. And let's face it, African countries, in this case Nigeria, they've had poor governance and governance in the pocket of Western countries, literally since their so-called independence, in my opinion. Yeah, we've gone from a state of colonialism to a complete state of neo-colonialism. And in the case of the Francophone countries, it's not even veiled. Literally not even veiled. The currency that Toure has just gotten rid of, the CFA franc, was actually printed in France. Completely ridiculous.
Administration, from states to the federal government. There's so many more young people, so many more technocrats, educated people who deserve to be in their positions that are actually getting positions this time around, different than what we have possibly seen in the past. So I want people to realize that we do have some of the infrastructure that we want, but because we speak from a point of anger, that we kind of just dismiss things. So we have to absolutely look within. And most importantly, again, we need to run for public office.
Okay, let me hear from one of the young.
I totally agree with that. Young people need to basically oust the old guard, the old people in power, the old power structure. And the way you do it is to run for local office. But if you do that, you cannot run along tribal lines. You've got to bury tribalism. Tribalism needs to be completely put in the bin for any African country to move forward. The same in the Caribbean. When you look at Caribbean islands, there's a lot of it is lighthearted, but still, it can still sting. This whole thing about to be honest, I think a lot of it is gone now, if I'm really honest with you. But this whole, it used to be a whole, but a lot of Jamaicans used to call small islanders small island and run them and cuss them and all that kind of thing. I think a lot of it is gone now, to be quite honest with you. But still, I don't know if that compares, but it still is a form of tribalism. But any tribalism literally needs to die for any African or Black advancement. It's the truth.
Young people who said that they would want to stay. Would you like to speak to me? Okay. What do you think it would take for you to say that I'm never going to leave Nigeria, or even if I do, I'd really want to come back and settle here?
Nobody here talks about Nigeria's educational system, which is like really terrible. I'm currently in 311 and I've seen people like constantly not attend classes, but those of us that like always read at nights, like steady classes, we don't get that score. And people that don't attend the class, they just pay the lecturers or something.
I think she should have had more teenagers, more university students or whatever in the crowd. I think there's only probably about 3 there and they're at the back and she's talking to them right at the end. But anyway.
And they pass. So even that is really discouraging for me to like, okay, I want to stay in Nigeria and like learn. Because even if I work hard, get the degree, get my first class, everything, if I don't have the right connection, if I don't have money, getting a job is like really difficult.
So you don't see any way that, you know, your stance on Japa is going to change?
No, it's not going to change. But I actually have the intention of going abroad, getting a good degree, getting the like technology, because most of the technology are not available in Nigeria.
Look, I think we're going to leave it there. I don't think there's a lot more of this. I think you get the idea as well. All right. So what I'm going to do, let me do this. Let me drop that down. Actually, let's do this. Let's go. Whoops. Let's go straight to there. Whoops. Let's go straight to there. All right, so hopefully there's been a change up there. No, it hasn't. Let's bring this up. Let's bring up this other thing that I want to show you. So look, the idea of showing you that, right, was to give you a good understanding of where Nigeria is at the moment. You know, that's the idea of what we were just looking at. Because really, it's against that background that we would be actually, you know, we would be moving into. That's the backdrop, or at least that's the current backdrop. All right. Things change. And, you know, the only little thing, you know, watching films like that, if we're not careful, could, you know, really make us think that it's all doom and gloom in Nigeria. But the truth is it's not. And the truth is, it's actually a very, very vibrant country, developing country, lots going on, creative. The most intelligent Black people on earth are in Nigeria, intellectually, creatively, all of that. And that's the truth, right? That is the absolute truth, right? So what we're going to look at now, you know, and going back to what I said before as well, that's the whole thing of legacy, finding a legacy for yourself. If you want to get married, finding a woman who's more likely to be traditional about it and want to stay married, not just get married, but stay married. So I'm just trying to organize this view so you can see it properly. The whole thing about wanting to stay in it, right? In the West, trying to find a situation, a woman who actually wants to stay married is pretty much impossible. I want to line this up the way I want to line it up. And this screen is fighting against me. But I'm going to win. Finding a woman in the West who actually a Black woman in the West who actually wants to stay married, let's face it, is almost impossible. Why is it doing this? I'm not going to let it win. I've got to win. Weird. Oh, there you go. All right. Okay, cool. Let me, hopefully you can see that. Is there a better way I can have that? Excuse me. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, finding a woman in the West who actually, let's do that. Finding a woman in the West who actually wants to stay married is almost impossible, which is why we are doing this. But you know what? I'll tell you what. Let's make that, because I don't think you can actually see that well. So let me change that a little bit. Let's do that. I think that's okay. Cool. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to make it even bigger so you can see more. Can you see that? I think you can see that. I think you can see that. I think that's okay. I think that's cool. So what we're going to do, bearing all that in mind, what we're going to do, and against that backdrop, what we're going to do, actually, I should really show you. Actually, no, let's just go with this. Bearing all that in mind, bearing that whole conversation about the state of Nigeria at the moment, the poor governance, the fact that Nigerian young people, if you like, are on the streets protesting. I've heard some people call it a Nigerian spring, similar to the Arab Spring, the thing that happened in, I think, Egypt. I don't like using the term, but I just heard that term today and I won't use it again. What we're going to do, and I think even before we look at the actual property, but what we are going to do is look at a nice place in Nigeria where we can emigrate to. In the next 3 months, we're going to be looking at the women of Nigeria, but in this one, we're going to look at a nice place where we can emigrate to, where we can leave our little place and space in the West and where we can go and look for a better life. And I want to say this as well. Before you buy a property in any country, the idea is that you visit that country and see whether or not the country is actually good for you. That's what you've got to do. All right. Visit the country first. Now, where we're looking at, we are, and listen, if you're here, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll say it again, like the video, subscribe to the channel. So what we're looking at, what we're going to be looking at, we're going to be looking at 3 properties. Now, remember, we're looking at Nigeria with all of the challenges we've just been looking at for the last 45 minutes, I think. We are still going to be looking at Nigeria. We're going to look at property in Nigeria now. We're looking at Lagos. Yeah, I don't know why my computer's going a little bit slow, but anyway, do forgive the computer. But anyway, we're looking at Lagos, this part of Lagos. I don't know, it's taking ages to refresh. Sod that. We're looking at a place in Lagos called Victoria Island, next to a place called Lekki. And I know, my pronunciation of Lekki, do forgive me. In the coming weeks, we're going to be looking at property in Victoria Garden City. We're going to be looking at Lagos Island and Takwa Bay Beach as well. We're going to be looking at property all along the coast, Shark Island, right? We're going to be looking at property all around that bit there. All right. But we're going to start off with looking at Victoria Island, right? Now, this little area is probably around about 2 square kilometers. So really, if you like to cycle, you could probably cycle around this in an hour, probably less than an hour. If you like to get, if you like to cycle like me. Right, or if you've got an electric bike, you could just sit on your electric bike, which is a lazy way to cycle, by the way. All right, but anyway, we're looking at Victoria Island, right? Now, the beaches, I've had a little look. The beaches are beautiful. You've got beaches right along there. You got beaches all around there. Some of it is sea wall. I think that's more over here. Don't quote me on that. When I was doing some research, I can't remember where actually, I saw sea wall. So I've tried to avoid that, and I'm trying to just look at property which is bang on the beach. Not sure why my laptop's taking ages to update. So that's where we're looking. Do your own research as well. The first property we are going to look at is going to be this one. All right, so let's share that tab. Good, you can see it. That seems to be working all right. Right, okay, so again, we will look at houses, and I've got to say, right, the property, at least in this part of Nigeria, is cheaper than Accra. So everything I've been looking at in Accra, this property seems to be like, just over half the price. I know that properties in Accra, the prices are going up, right? But I've noticed that Accra is way more expensive than Nairobi and Mombasa, and is also more expensive than this part of Nigeria. But look what you get for the money here. So this first property is going for 90,000 naira. I nearly forgot what the currency was for a minute. 90,000 naira. Now, let me tell you what that is, right? I'm going to the calculator, right? So 90,000 naira, 90 million. Is that 90 million? Right. So 90 million naira, right? Whoops. Let me do this. Not sure why. Anyway, 90 million. I've got to get a drum roll. I've got to get a sound effect. That's really what I've got to get. But here we go. Look, 90 million naira is 43,000 pounds. 43,100 pounds, right? That is 90 million naira. Now, for that money, right, what do we get? What do we get for that amount of money, right? So let me just make sure you can actually still see that. Yes, you can. Right, 90 million naira. It's a one-bedroom maisonette, right, on Victoria Island. A one-bedroom maisonette. Let's look at the pictures, right? So that's and now these are all off plan as well. So in other words, they've not been built yet. We'll look to see if the information tells us, gives us the lead time regarding building work. So these are all artist impressions. And again, this is all about doing your due diligence of the company, their track record, making sure that they've got a track record. This is about you doing your due diligence. This isn't about me giving you advice on what to buy. This is simply me saying what is possible. What kind of life is open to us as men, black men, outside of the West? All right. So you could remortgage your house in the States or in Europe, in the UK, whatever part of the West you live in, and you could buy any one of these, stick it on Airbnb. Although I also noticed that the rental capacity, the rental, the rent money you would earn from Airbnb is less in Lagos, this part of Lagos, than it is in Accra. So it's similar to what to what you might earn in Nairobi, right? So bear that in mind. I'm not going to look at Airbnb, what you stand to earn in this live. I'll do it in the next one. I'll look at law as well, but it's quite similar to how it is in Ghana in terms of the law. But we will come to that. But anyway, so you can see, on this artist impression, there's a sea wall, there's a harbour. Well, yeah, harbour-ish there. And these are all off plan. And again, buying off plan buildings are the same everywhere. I've not really seen it being, the law around buying off plan different, in any country really. You pay via installments. That's what you do. So these are all artist impressions. Now remember, £43,000, right? 43,000 quid. £43,000. So as far as I'm concerned, you're getting a lot for your money. A decent brand new 1-bedroom apartment on the seafront, all brand new. No doubt there'd be a service charge as well. Let's see. Sometimes the descriptions of what you get are not brilliant, but anyway, yeah, okay. Let's just read it. Right, 1-bedroom flat or apartment for sale on Victoria Island, Lagos, selling for £43,000 or 90 million naira. See what this tells us. Sorry for the coughing. Blue Water Towers is a premium twin tower to Blue Water Sapphire Tower, ultra modern development located in Victoria Island. I'm going to avoid all the words I can't pronounce. One of the most prestigious neighborhoods in Lagos State, spanning over 21 floors and 19 floors respectively. I just want to see what here we go. Right. Okay. So what do you get? The amenities: CCTV camera, power, massive drop-off and reception area. Right. So basically, that's always quite nice. Gym, swimming pool, outdoor social areas. Whenever I look at an apartment, I always go for that. I always go for gym, swimming pool, as many things, as possible. Because obviously, if you put it on Airbnb, you want the guests to have something to enjoy. Basically, it's a USB. It's a selling feature. Designated parking spaces. So, that's great. So your apartment has its own parking space. Fully fitted spaces with air conditioning, water sprinkler, smoke detector systems, obviously, right? All right, microwaves and cooling burners. I have no idea what a cooling burner is. So that's good. So this is a new build, looks great, and you get a gym, swimming pool, outdoor social spaces. That's all I want. That's all I care. Look, if a 1-bedroom place by the sea, brand new, with that for £43,000, you cannot go wrong, and it looks great in a great area of Nigeria, of Lagos, basically in the best part of Lagos, for £43,000. Buying off plan. It doesn't say a lot. About the company, and again, that's about you doing your own due diligence. I'm looking. By the way, this website is a Nigerian property website. It's called Private Property, so do check it out for yourself. Doesn't really give us a lot more information, right? So this information was updated the 2nd of August, so it's current information. Yeah, this is a bit of blur, but it doesn't really tell. It's just a lot of description. It doesn't really tell us a lot, I don't think. Floor-to-ceiling windows in its front door and an airy sit-out balcony. See, of course, you get a balcony with a flat. All the initial considerations for Masonette are met. It has a very gorgeous lounge and bright and spacious bedroom, along with a modern fitted kitchen. The location is another point of interest. There is a supermarket minutes away, and it's only a few minutes from the bus station and all the new and exciting bars. All right, so there's some good information there. New and exciting bars and eateries. We think this is a great opportunity to get on the property ladder without having to compromise, and we are confident that this would be your perfect taste. So that is a good one. That is a brilliant one. For the money, it's pretty much impossible to go wrong with that one in terms of rental, and for you to situate yourself, in Nigeria, basically. Yeah. It's just a nice place. That is a nice place. Right, I'm going to move on to the next one very quickly. So hopefully you can see that. Yep, you can see it. That's cool. Learning to use StreamYard a little bit more. Right, okay, so this one is going for 95 million Ghana cedis, 95 million. So let's have a look to see what 95 million is. It's only going to be a little bit more than the other apartment. So 92 million naira is 45,378 pounds. So that's 45,300 quid. What do we get for the money? So we have a brilliant social space. I mean, this is an artist impression, but the bottom line is it's going to be a bar, right? You may not have the table tennis table in there. Now, remember, it's a new build, so you're going to get all new fixtures and fittings. And this is a one-bed apartment, right? So this is a beautiful one-bed. Oh, masonette. So there's going to be stairs. There's going to be an upstairs bedroom in this one. Masonette, for those of you that don't know, it's a British term, I think, whereby the apartment or the place, the property is set over 2 floors, more or less, right? So you get a gym for the money. Yeah, look, stairs there. It's quite spacious. And again, this is an artist impression. So the furniture, unless they say, does not come with the, these are unfurnished. Yeah. But I've been to, me and the wife, we did stay in a new build Embassy Gardens in Ghana. It's the same sort of thing. And, that place was beautiful as well. But just remember, the furniture just doesn't come with it. But, the marble floors, or shiny tiling, fitted kitchens and all the rest of it in the balcony, that is what you're paying for. And outdoor pool as well. Gotta say, this is a lovely space. So what do we get? Features, can you see that? And just make it a little bit bigger. Excuse me. So you get 24-hour power supply, 24-hour security, heated jacuzzi, smart building, whatever that means, elevator, gas to home for kitchen, just a gas cooker, swimming pool, gym, clubhouse, apartment types, 1-bedroom apartment, 1-bedroom masonette with a oh right, so the 1-bedroom apartment is cheaper. So that 1-bedroom apartment is just 85. Wow. So the 1-bedroom apartment is it starts around about £40,000. Brilliant. We've just been looking at the masonette for 95 million naira, which is what did we say? We said 45,000 British pounds, 45,300 British pounds. Then there's a 2-bedroom apartment, 2-bedroom masonette, 3-bedroom apartment and office spaces. What else? What else is here? Let's have a little read of this one. Let me check. So this is correct. It was last updated 22nd of July. So the information's current. The information is current. Let's get back onto that page. Here we go. Whoops. Yeah. Right. Okay. So amenities, all rooms, ensuite, kitchen, built-in cupboards, scenic view, jacuzzi, fence, borehole, security post. I have no idea what some of that means. Wheelchair friendly, guest toilet, boys' quarters, bathtub, gym. What they should have here, which they haven't got, is a floor plan, so we could actually see the apartment. That's the only thing that's missing. A 1-bedroom terrace for sale, Victoria Island, Lagos, selling for 95 million naira, which is 40,000 pounds. So it's on Victoria Island. Let's look at these features again. 24-hour power and security. Basically, that means there's a backup generator. As I said, there are power cuts in Nigeria sometimes, which is why they would have a backup generator in a building like this. Fully equipped, technologically advanced fitness center, leisure desk with swimming pool and at podium level, whatever that means. Specially designed children's play area, which is called tennis court, high-tech controlled security access throughout the public and common areas. So basically people from outside can't come in, so it's secure. Elevator, smart building and security monitoring system, grand space shops, mini mart and office space, basement and ample parking plus guest parking, 24 hours uninterrupted power, heated jacuzzi, and I assume that simply means the cooker's powered by gas. Right, initial deposit is 30%, and they would basically give you an interval payment plan over 24 months. So that, you know, I mean, they're building this now, and the last payment is normally due when you hand over the keys with a when you buy off plan. Do check out this website, and by the way, I'm not getting paid for this, right? But you know, I'm just recommending, you know, that you do go and check out the website Private Property. I am not getting sponsored in any kind of way. I mean it. I'm really not. This is simply about saying to black men, hey, there's life outside the West. That's what this is all about, guys. Yep. Yeah. So, and there's loads of properties like this on this website, and houses as well. You know, if you don't have to go for an apartment. You can go for a house. You can just buy a house. Honestly, they're cheap enough. They are cheap. If you look at the price of this, I've looked at loads of houses, and honestly, you get a lot for your money. Even here, even on the Victoria Island, right? You can buy a 3-bed house for, you know, 100,000 British pounds. Nice house. But, you know, this is great because it's all serviced, it's all secure, great to rent out on Airbnb. You don't have to be there. You can give it to a company to rent out, which is why we're looking at it. Okay, cool. So that's this one. That's our second one. That's another artist impression. Yeah. And just remember what you get for the money. As far as I'm concerned, this is a brilliant one. Brilliant one. Yeah? Okay, last property, and then we'll call it a day. And remember, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. You know, don't just come here without hitting the bell or at least liking the video. Make sure you like the video, right? Make sure you like it, share it, all of that good stuff. Right, okay. I'm going to share our last one. Now, this one is going for even less. This is going for 60 million naira. 60 million naira, this last one. Let me check that. You can see it. Yes, you can. This one's going for 60 million naira. Let me just check how much 60 million is. 60 million naira is £28,700. 28,700 quid. 60 million naira. Now, what do we get for that? Now, this is the outside. So you get straight away, you can see that there's a swimming pool there. Now, remember, this is an artist impression. So these buildings are all in the works, guys. All in the works, right? So you can see that's so you get a pool, brand new build. Looks like, well, we'll carry on looking, but that looks like it's going to be under building car parking. Secure. In all of these buildings, there's going to be a desk. There's going to be some sort of front desk and a concierge. These are all artist impressions. So I'm looking at the right building there. I don't know. Maybe that's anyway. It doesn't matter. Oh, right. These are, so this the whole thing. These are apartments and these are houses. I think they should give us more pictures with this one, but anyway. Oh, yeah, they do. Here we go. So again, these are all artist impressions, but just to give you an idea of what it might look like. Is that it? I think that's pretty much it. I think they let down the development. I think they should give us some more. Anyway, let's read the information. Right. So we know it's 60 million naira. We know it's cheap. 29,000 British pounds. Did I say that last time? Hope I did. God, what does it say here? 35 square meters and 22 square meters. They're using British terminology, studio flat, right? One bedroom block, one bedroom flat or apartment, Victoria Island, 60 million naira. 8 units, studio flat, measuring 35 square meters or 22 square meters on Victoria Island. Work, life and leisure, all is here. Under urban shelter living is a community that merges affordable luxury with an urban island lifestyle by the beautiful waterfront and beach located in the Aniru district in Victoria Island, a highly sought after address in Lagos, Nigeria. Urban shelter living is conveniently next to anything Victoria Island offers. Restaurants, sports clubs, healthcare centres, and anything else you can ever want or need are here for you. Even the city centre is a quick drive away, highly accessible and highly secure. The community has one main entrance and one basement parking entrance along the north-south axis of Water Corporation Drive. Rising in this prime location, urban island living is an address like no other. Don't think the sentence made sense, or I'm a bit stupid, a bit slow. A relaxing oasis in the heart of the action. Urban shelter living is your world of townhouses and condo tower apartments with magnificent sea views. A sophisticated and unique statement. Urban shelter living has all the perfect trimmings and contemporary, affordable luxury living with maximum return on investment. It's more than a home, it's a lifestyle and a move towards a bright future. At the forefront of trends, blah 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 blah. Here we go. Having a green roof design. The studio flats are a beacon of. I was trying to read if that's actually going to tell us something about what you're actually getting, which it doesn't really. Just a little blurb. Right, here we go. Amenities, elevator. Can you read that? Hopefully you can. Amenities, elevator, gym, pool, kitchens, luxurious baths, rooftop terrace, lighting control system in your apartment, security systems, climate control system, safety and fire alarm system, blind curtain control system. Bloody hell. So you press the button and it opens the curtains or whatever, and much more. Completion 1 quarter next year. So basically they think this is going to be just the first phase is going to be completed this year. That's 48 units. So this is a big old place basically. For more information, price and private views, please contact the information. Basically just go to the website and get the details off the website. Some of the social media from the company. The company's called, God, what was it called? I can't remember now. I'm pretty sure I read it out. But the bottom line is, that's another possibility. So we're only doing this really just to show you what's possible. You know, for that amount of money, even if you've got a house in the USA or you've got a house in the whatever part of the West you're in the UK, you don't even have to sell your house. You can simply just remortgage it and buy one of these if you want to. Yeah, you could leave your house to rent out in whatever part of the West you live in, and you could buy one of these as you know, just you can Airbnb it out if you want, or you could just literally just go and live in it. Yeah, check out Nigeria. So, I think that's definitely viable. I think, yeah, this information shows us these townhouses down here. Yeah, these are all townhouses, aren't they? Townhouses. And then there's this apartment building as well. Yeah, there you go. So it's an apartment building surrounded by townhouses with a swimming pool and all kinds of other stuff. So I think that's a good one. I think that's actually quite nice, personally. Yeah. Right. Listen. Right, what we're going to do, we're going to call that a day today. As I said, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, right? This show's been about Nigeria. It's been about the pros and cons of moving to Nigeria. Specifically, it's been about that conversation about where else can black men go to get quality of life, to get legacy, to find a woman who wants to stay married, to invest. Where can we go? We've looked at Ghana. We started off looking at Ghana months ago. We looked at Kenya. We're going to be looking at those two again. But for the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at Nigeria. We started off the show by looking at the pros and cons, the issues, what's going on with young people, right? The fact that I believe they've got legitimate issues with the poor government. And I, like those young people, think that the government literally need to step aside if they're not going to do the right thing for Nigerians. That's just my view. So I am in lockstep and 100% behind the youth of Nigeria, right? Anyway, guys, if you're on this call, thanks for joining us. We're going to be on again tomorrow. I got to do my best to stream at a regular time. Do forgive us for that. Do like the stream, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Guys, I will see you on the next one. Peace.